All right, here's Chapter 8, Lesson 6, factoring ax squared plus bx plus c. The main difference today is that we have an a in the front of our x squared, whereas yesterday we just had x squared. So it's going to throw a little bit different factoring into the mix here. So our key concept is when factoring ax squared plus bx plus c, you first are going to consider the signs of b and c. This lets you know whether you are looking for a sum or a difference. So since this c is positive, we'd be looking for a sum. If we ended up with a c that is negative, we would be looking for a difference. Okay? So looking at example 1, we have 2x squared minus 7x plus 3. Since our c term is positive, we're going to be looking for a sum. And since our b term is negative, we are going to end up having parentheses with minus signs in both of them. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to consider all the factors of 2 and 3. Oh, this in other words over here means this exact thing. We're going to have parentheses with minus signs in them. Okay? Considering all the factors of 2 and 3, we're going to work it around until when we do FOIL, you will have a sum of 7 when you do your outer and your inner. Okay? So my factors of 2 are obviously only 1 and 2, and my factors of 3 are 1 and 3. Okay? So I know that I need to find something that's going to add to 7. Well, I look here and I see that 3 times 2 equals 6, and 1 times 1 equals 1, and 1 plus 6 does equal 7. So my 2 and my 3 need to be multiplied together. So I'm going to go ahead and place my 2x here and my 1x there because that's my factor for my first term. This gives me 2x times x, giving me 2x squared, which is what I need. So that leaves me with a 1 here and a 3 here, and that is because I need to have negative 6x when I FOIL and a negative x when I FOIL here. When I do my outer and my inner, I get negative 6x and a negative 1x for a total of negative 7x. Okay? But we are going to FOIL to check. Okay? So my first terms gives me 2x times x, which is 2x squared. And again, my outer is 6x, my inner is x, and my last is positive 3. When I combine like terms, I have 2x squared minus 7x plus 3. Okay? They won't all turn out quite that easy when you have multiple factors. You just have to do some working around to where you can find a good combination. Okay? All right, let's scroll down to example 2. We're going to now factor when b is positive and c is negative. So, since c is negative, that means I'm going to have a parentheses with a plus sign and one parentheses with a minus sign. So I'll be looking for the difference. I need to look for factors that will have a difference. Oh, look, I made a mistake again. Shocked, aren't you guys? We need to have a difference that will have a difference. Oh, I was right. Now I just made a mistake on the video. It does need to have a difference of 14. Okay. All right. So we're looking for factors of 3, factors of 5 that we can add together, multiply them, and then add their products for a sum of 14. Sounds confusing, but let's do it again. Okay? 1 and 3 are my only factors of 3, and 1 and 5 are my only factors of 5. So let's kind of work some of these around. And I notice right off that 3 times 5 equals 15, and 1 times 1 equals 1, and 15 minus 1 equals 14. That is what I'm looking for. Ding, ding, ding. So I'm going to set up my parentheses with my plus in the middle and my parentheses with my minus in the middle. And I know I'm going to have my first terms have to be 1 and 3. So let's go ahead and do my 3 in here and just my 1 in here. Okay? Because this 1 and 3 are for this first term. Okay? All right, now I need to do 3 times 5, so I need to have my outer terms be the 3n and the 5. Okay? And I need my inner terms to be just the 1n. But now I'm going to look at what I've done. I'm going to FOIL and I'm going to check this. I've got negative 15n when I do my outer terms, and I have positive 1n when I do my inner terms. Negative 15n plus n gives me a negative 14n. Okay, and I need, let me erase this so we can see, I need a positive 14n. What can I do to fix this? Because I've got the right products, I just don't have the correct sum. So what I can do to fix this, is my mouse will work, is change the signs in the middle. Okay? So instead of n minus 5, I'm going to have n plus 5, and I'm going to have 3n minus 1. So let's see if that corrects it. Okay? Now, let's go ahead and FOIL. 3n times n is 3n squared. 3n times 5 is positive 15n. Negative 1 times n is negative n, and negative 1 times 5 is negative 5. And when I combine like terms, I have 3n squared plus 14n minus 5, which is what I started with. Okay? FOILing is important to check, so that way you know where your signs are. There's nothing wrong with having to switch your signs once you figure out where your factors need to go. Okay? So go ahead and pause the video and do some guided practice, and then come back and check to see how you did. Okay? Okay, so since you paused the video, you should have noticed that our C term is positive. Our B term is also positive. So we're going to have two parentheses with pluses on the inside, making it a little bit easier, because once we find our factors, we know. Plus, we're also looking for factors that can sum to 8. So my factors of 3 are 1 and 3, and my factors of 4 are 1 and 4, and 2, 1 and 4, and 2 and 2. Okay? All right. So if I do 3 times 4, I get 12, and 1 times 1 is 1. That's not going to add to 8. That's going to add to 13. So I can't use those. Okay? Now, my factors of of 3 and 4 this way. 3 times 2 is 6. 1 times 2 is 2. And 2 plus 6 equals 8. So I have found what I need to use. So let's go ahead, and this time let's put our x here and our 3x here, because it doesn't matter. But we got to pay attention. Well, we have 2 and 2, so it shouldn't matter. We're going to put 2 here and a 2 there. Okay? And let's FOIL to check. X times 3x is 3x squared. X times 2 is positive 2x. 2 times 3x is positive 6x. And 2 times 2 is positive 4. We combine like terms, and we get 3x squared plus 8x plus 4, which is what we started with. All right, for guided practice number 2, we notice that our C term is negative. So that means we're going to have two parentheses. I'm going to do them here. We have one positive parenthesis and one negative parenthesis. I don't have to do that right away. I can do that later. Just know that that's what you're going to have. Now, my factors of 2 are 1 and 2. Not 1 minus 2, sorry. 1 and 2. My factors of 7 are 1 and 7. Okay? All right. We need to find a difference of 13. So 2 times 7 is 14. 1 times 1 is 1. And 14 minus 1 is 13. Okay? So check. We found our combination. We know the 2 and the 7 need to be together, and they need to be positive. So I'm going to put my 2t here and my 1t here. And I'm going to put my 7 here and my 1 here. And I think that should work out. But if it doesn't, can you switch things around? Absolutely. Once you know the combination, you can work this around as needed. So let's FOIL. T times 2t is 2t squared. T times negative 1 is negative t. 7 times 2t is positive 14t. And 7 times negative 1 is negative 7. Combine like terms, 2t squared plus 13t minus 7. And that checks. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and go to the back side of the page. And it says factor when a is negative. Okay. The only difference here is you can factor out a negative 1 before you begin. And that negative 1 will need to stay in front of your problem at all times. So we're going to take out a negative 1. Now, do we have to actually write the negative 1? Or could I just write a negative sign? Let's just write a negative sign. When you factor out a negative, everything inside changes signs. So my 4y squared is now positive, but my positive 12y is negative, and my positive 7 is negative. Okay? So now this negative needs to be out front of any answer I have. So I'm going to go ahead and write it to know that I've got to have it out front of my double parentheses later. All right, my C term is negative, so I'm going to be looking for a difference that gives me a negative 12. Okay? So let's write my factors of 4 and my factors of 7. My factors of 4 are 1 and 4 and 2 and 2. My factors of 7 are 1 and 7 and 1 and 7. Okay? And I obviously could switch them out and do 7 and 1 and do 4 times 7 or 4 times 1. Look at some different combinations. This is going to give me 28 minus 1, which is 27. Okay? If I switch them around, and I did 7 and 1, which could be a possibility, so you should always check it, I get 4 and 7, which the difference is 3. Still doesn't give me my B term. Over here, I have 2 times 7, which is 14, and 2 times 1, which is 2, and 2 and 14 do have a difference of 12. Okay? And I need that to be a negative 12. So I'm going to write my parentheses, knowing I'm going to have 1 plus and 1 minus inside the parentheses, since I have a negative C. And I'm going to go ahead, oh, I just got rid of my combination, didn't I? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and write 2y right here and 2y right there, since I know those are my factors for the 4. And I'm going to stop and I'm going to think I need my 14 to be negative. When we discovered the 14 right here, that needs to be negative. So wherever I put my 7, that's going to be negative. And wherever I put my 1, that's going to be positive. But again, if you make a mistake, FOIL and change if needed. So now I'm going to FOIL to check. My negative stays out here. 2y times 2y is 4y squared. 2y times negative 7 is negative 14y. 1 times 2y is positive 2y. And 1 times negative 7 is negative 7, which equals, combining like terms, 4y squared minus 12y minus 7, which is what I definitely have in here. And when I redistribute the negative, I get negative 4y squared plus 12y plus 7. Okay? And that is what I have right here. So go ahead and stop the video and do your guided practice. And then you can check them and then do your daily homework quiz. Go ahead and try it and bring those 2 problems to school tomorrow. Okay, so done the daily homework quiz. This first one, we have a negative in our A term, so I'm going to pull that negative out first, and I'm going to be left with a squared minus 12a plus 27. Okay, everybody understand that, I hope. Now, my C is positive, okay, so I'm going to have 2 parentheses with negative signs. So I'm going to go ahead and leave my negative out front, and I'm going to have 2 parentheses with negative signs. Okay? Now, I don't have an A term here. I mean, I just have an A variable, but I don't have a coefficient in front of it. So I'm going to just look at my factors of 27 and find which ones add to 12. So my factors of 27 that add to 12 are 9 and 3. 9 times 3 is 27, and 9 plus 3 is 12. So now I get to just put my A in front, and my 9 and 3 And there's my answer. And we're going to FOIL to check. Okay, so I'll leave my negative out front. A times A is A squared. Negative 3A minus 9A. And negative 9 times negative 3 is positive 27. Combine like terms. A squared minus 12A plus 27. Distribute the negative. Negative A squared plus 12A minus 27. And that checks. Okay. On my next one, again, I'm going to pull out a negative 1 first. So a negative here leaves me with x squared minus x minus 20. Okay. So C term is negative, so I'm looking for the difference between the factors. I'm going to leave my negative out front. And I know I'm going to have a plus and a minus, but I know I'm going to have an x and an x because there is no coefficient a. So that's kind of nice. And my factors of 20 that have a difference of 1 are going to be 4 and 5. 4 times 5 is 20, and 5 minus 4 is 1. So again, my b term's negative, so I need the minus sign to go with my larger factor, and the plus sign to go with my smaller factor. Okay? FOIL to check. X squared. X times 4 is positive 4x. Negative 5 times x is negative 5x. Negative 5 times 4 is negative 20. Combine like terms. Redistribute my negative. And I come up with what I started with. Okay? Go ahead and do the daily homework quiz. You can stop the video, or you can rewind and rewatch any part. And I hope this is louder. I tried to turn up my speaker volume, and I think it worked pretty well. Bring any questions that you have to class. And let's see, extra credit. What is your favorite sports team, if you have one? If you don't have one, you can say I don't have one. But what's your favorite sports team? For 2 points extra credit tomorrow. All right. Have a great night. See ya.